What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today a massive shout out to Kyron because today I'm able to bring you a Battlin Boxer deck profile. Now this is going to be for Genesys. I'm also going to show you a very basic combo at the end of the video as well, so you can see what the deck can do in Advanced and in Genesys. What I really like about this deck is it's a deck that doesn't look that bad in Advanced. So if you were to buy it for Genesys and you go, you know what, I'm just going to catch my entire local environment off and play this in Advanced instead, it can actually be quite fun because it lets you play Songs of the Dominators, it lets you play Dominus Spiral, and you can also play Dominus Impulse. I'm not saying that you're going to go out of your way to specifically have Battlin Boxers for your Advanced deck, but it's just something that could be really kind of cool to play around with. As always with a Genesys build, I'll show you the main, the extra, and the side deck all counted within the point allocations, which is going to be the 100-point cap. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you won't miss out on any more upcoming content. Starting off with the profile of the best Battlin Boxer card, in my opinion, and that is going to be your Battlin Boxer Promoter. Now, this card is just insane for Battlin Boxers. So if your opponent controls a monster, you get special on his card from the hand. I probably should have said at the start of the video as well that this deck is designed to be an OTK style deck just because of how good the Promoter is. So you get to special on this card from the hand. You get to tribute this card to special on up to 2 Battlin Boxer monsters with different names from the deck except itself. You can banish this card from the graveyard to increase or decrease the levels of all Battlin Boxer monsters you control by 1. Only use the effect once per turn, but you cannot summon monsters the turn you activate this effect except Battlin Boxers. So it is going to limit you to Battlin Boxers, which is probably what stops them being so, like, flexible. Because can you imagine a card like this that gives you like an instant rank 4 that doesn't lock you into Battlin Boxers, or locks you into Battlin Boxers after the fact? It would be crazy. So, yeah, Promoter is absolutely insane, which is why you kind of want to lean the deck to be going second, just because of how much it can push. And actually, the lock, I don't mind, because then it does obviously stop it being splashable. The best thing about this is the most expensive cards in the main deck themselves, if you don't count 7th Tachyon, which I'll talk about that as well, because there are some alternatives you can utilize to give you a little bit more consistency, which is what you're playing the Tachyon package for anyway, later on in the profile. The next one we're going to be playing 3 of is the Battlin Boxer Chief Second. So during the main phase, you get to normal summon a Battlin Boxer monster in addition to your normal summoner set. You only gain that effect once per turn. When an opponent's monster declares an attack while you control a warrior or fire monster, special on this card from the hand, and if you do negate the attack, then banish 1 monster on the field into the end phase. Only use the effect once per turn. So you don't have to be maxing this out on 3 if you don't want to, but I like it as a way of being able to go normal summon this, additional normal summon and push on. And what makes this and Promoter so good in Genesys as opposed to Advanced is that Ash Blossom is very, very rarely around. It also means that Infinite Impermanence is also a bit more of a premium because of its point allocation, but not that you wouldn't expect to use it, but what I like about this is you play a lot of breakers in the form, like all your points are allocated to breakers in Lightning Storm, Dark Hole, and yes, you could even include Illusion Gate, which I deliberately haven't because of the price of Illusion Gate right now is insane. But the other is you want to break your opponent's field, go with Promoter, and then build on from there. Obviously, Promoter needs your opponent to control a monster, which is why you also lean into the Boxer Chief. But at least with cards like that, you're able to either bait out interactions, negate interactions, and then move on from there. Or you can just main deck Kaijus if you really want to, and that would really help you out. But remember, you also special on the Kaiju. So if you special on the Kaiju, you can't use Promoter. So again, bit of a clash there. Maybe even Raw Sphere mode might not be the worst idea for it. So we've got 3 of the Battlin Boxer Chief Second. Then I've got 1 Battlin Boxer Uppercut. Now this is purely because I only own 1 right now. I have bought a 2nd and a 3rd that I'm hoping is going to turn up. You don't need to max out on it because you can get direct access to it through the Promoter combo, which again I'll show you at the end of the video. But the other is you're trying to set yourself up with negates and everything else you need to. And what Uppercut does is on normal or special, you get to add a Battlin Boxer card or a Battlin Boxer monster or a counter trap card from the deck to the hand, except itself. If it's sent to the graveyard by card effect, you get to activate one of these effects. Now, it doesn't care where it is sent to by card effect, as long as it is sent to card effect, and that's where Dempsey comes into play. You get to special on a Battlin Boxer monster from the graveyard except itself, or you get to set a counter trap card from your graveyard to the field. You can only use 1 effect per turn, only once that turn. So just to jump ahead to show you the counters that it can get hold of, it can get hold of the Flame Veil counter and the Battlin Boxer cross counter, as they both mention counter in the name. So the idea behind those one is the Flame Veil is when a spell trap or card effect is activated, banish a fire monster with 200 defense. There's your uppercutter. They get the activation if you do destroy it. The crosscutter is when your opponent activates a monster effect, destroy a Battlin Boxer or a number Xyz you control, and if you do, negate the activation, and if you do that, destroy that monster. Then you get to apply the following effects. Special on a Battlin Boxer Xyz monster from the extra deck with a different name than the first monster, and if you do, attach this card to it as material. You can only activate 1 cross per turn. Then for the rest of the Battlin Boxer monsters, we've got the 1 Sparrer, the 1 Switch Hitter, the 1 Glassjaw. So Glassjaw is if it's target for an attack, you destroy this card. When it's sent to the graveyard by card effect, target a Battlin Boxer monster in the grave, accept yourself and add it back to the hand. So that's your resource management. Switcher is on normal summon, you get to target a Battlin Boxer in your graveyard and special summon it. You can't special summon monsters during the turn you activate this except Battlin Boxers. And then the Sparrer is if you control a Battlin Boxer monster, you get to special summon this card from the hand. And if you do, but you can't conduct the battle phase for the rest of this turn. So again, going first, this is quite good for you. Going second, not so great. And it's kind of where you need to get that balance. The final Battlin Boxer monster we play is the 1 Shadow. During the main phase, detach a material from a Battlin Boxer Xyz you control, and if you do, special on this card from the hand. Only use the effect once per turn. And again, the idea is that Promoter is 1 Xyz on its own, and then you still have your normal summon, and you've got your additional normal summon off of your Boxer Chief second as well. Then the final fire monster that we play is 3 Heater, the Fire Channeler. This is just to increase your consistency to get to your fire monsters. So this one, again, you can discard this card and then 1 other fire to add a fire monster from your deck to your hand with a higher attack than the monster you discarded. Also, you can't activate non-fire monster effects for the rest of this turn, which is fine. And then when your fire monster is destroyed by battle, you get to special summon this card from the hand. Only use the effect once per turn, but the idea is it's just a discard and search. Moving on to the spell cards. So for the Battlin Boxers, we've got the 1 Battlin Boxing Spirit. So send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, then target a Battlin Boxer in your grave and special summon it. Ring Announcer, it's always treated as a Battlin Boxing card. You special on a Battlin Boxer monster from the hand, and then you get to destroy spells and traps on the field up to the number of XE monsters you control. You can only activate 1 Ring Announcer per turn. It's just a searchable way of being able to destroy spells and traps if you want to. Then we've got the 1 Rank Up Magic Quick Chaos. So you target a number Xyz monster you control, except a number C monster. Special from the extra deck, a number C monster with the same number in its name as that target, but a rank higher by using it as Xyz material, and it's treated as an Xyz summon. Now, when you do that, you've got a couple of targets in the couple of targets in the deck. So you've got your C104 to your C105, and then you've got your number 79 to your C79 as well. So as you can jump between the two of those. I'm then playing 2 Fire Recovery. I quite like this as a way to loop back resource, but this one lets you target a fire monster in your graveyard. You send a card from the hand to the grave, and if you do, special on the targeted monster. Banish this card from the graveyard to target 3 of your fire monsters that are banished and or in the grave. Shuffle them back into the deck and then draw a card. You can only use the draw effect once per turn, but the revival effect you can use as many times as you have copies. So keep going and going and going. Then for the non-engine cards, we've got 3 Dominus Spiral. Like in Genesys, these are 0 points, so you're completely free and clear of this one. And then this is where our point allocation starts to come into play. So we've got 3 Lightning Storm at 12 points apiece. This just gives you the way to deal with your opponent's spells and traps, which can be very, very annoying to deal with. You don't mind dealing with your opponent's spells and traps because then your promoter just benefits off of them having the monsters. 3 Dark Holes at 1 point apiece. Again, this just gives you options that if you need to clear your own field off, or if you want to clear your opponent's monsters off, it can be quite good. And then if you do have protection to stop your Battlin Boxer being destroyed by any card effect, you'll be in a much better position. Then got 2 Ghost Ogres at 4 points apiece and 2 DD Crows at 1 point apiece. 2 Infinite Impermanents at 12 points apiece as well. So again, you're starting to rank up the points. And then still at 0 points, which is pretty crazy, but you've got 3 7th Tachyon and 1 7th Ascended. If you don't have access to these, which I was hoping were going to be reprinted in Rarity Collection 5, which sadly they weren't, to keep the cost down, what you can look at is you can look at 3 Duradol. I'm trying to see if I have them. I did have them to one side. Yeah, here we go. You can go for 3 of your Infernoble Arms Duradol. It does require you to have a monster on the field, but it still then lets you search, and that search will give you access to your Sparrer, which then becomes your extender, and then allows you to push that a little bit further forward. So that's it for the entire main deck. Now to take you through the extra deck, and then I'll take you through the side deck as well. Again, like I said, Illusion Gate's currently 0 points, but I would not be surprised if Illusion Gates get points in an upcoming update. So for the XEs, we've got the 1 number 79 Battlin Boxer Nova Kaiser and the number C79 Battlin Boxer General Kaiser. So this one is rank 4 generic. Once per turn, attach a Battlin Boxer monster from the hand or grave to this card as material. It gains 100 attack for each XE's material attached to it. When this card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card or by battle, or effect, and sent to the graveyard, you get to target a level 4 or lower Battlin Boxer monster in your graveyard up to the number of Xyz materials this card has on the field, and special summon them. The General Kaiser is 3 level 5s, but again, you can rank it up. And then this one gains 200 attack for each material attached to it. When your opponent would special summon a monster once per turn, quick effect, detach 2 materials from this card, and if you do, negate the summon, and if you do that, destroy the monsters. If this card has number 79, Battlin Boxer Nova Kaiser, as material, it gains the following effect: that once per turn, when an attack is declared involving your Battlin Boxer monster and your opponent's monster, you get to send a Battlin Boxer monster from the hand or deck to the grave, and if you do, you attach that opponent's monster to this card as material. So just how you're able to regain resourced material to this card. We've then got the number 105 Battlin Boxer Star Cestius, and the C105 Battlin Boxer Comet Cestius. During either player's battle step, if a Battlin Boxer monster you control, a lot of battles, Jesus, battles an opponent's monster, detach a material from this card, negate the effects of an opponent's monster until the end of this turn. That monster you control cannot be destroyed by that battle, and your opponent takes any battle damage that you would have taken. This is obviously your number target for your seventh Tachyon as well, so keep that in mind. And then you'll see 105, when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the grave, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the destroyed monster's original attack. And if it has number 105 as material, it gains the following effect: that once per turn, detach material from this card, target a monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that destroyed monster's attack on the field. Then the most important Battlin Boxer XEs is your Battlin Boxer King Dempsey, which you're going to be playing 2 of. So generic rank 4, and if it is special signed, you get to take a level 4 or lower Fire Warrior or a Battlin Boxer spell or trap from the deck, and either add it to the hand or send it to the graveyard. Quick effect, detach a material from this card you control, from a monster you control, and if you do, apply the following effect: your opponent cannot target Battlin Boxer monsters you control with card effects for the rest of this turn. And the idea is that because it's a detached via effect, not as cost, that will trigger off some of your Battlin Boxer cards as well. They got the Battlin Boxer Yugioh, a classic boss monster in its own sense. 2 level 4 Battlin Boxer monsters. If a Battlin Boxer monster or monsters you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, detach material from this card instead of destroying one of those monsters. If a material is detached from this card, it gains 800 attack permanently. So that's all of the Battlin Boxers themselves. Then just some generic rank 4s you can play in the form of the Spriggan's Merrymaker. And the idea is you rank this up into Sargus. You've got a stronger monster here. You can build up into a Zeus here. But you also have ways to detach materials as effects to then give benefits and then additional destructions off of the back of Sargus. Got the Utopia Rising. So again, generic rank 4. If it's special summons, you target a number XZs in your graveyard except itself, and you've got 79 and 105. Special summon it in defense. Detach all materials from this card and attach them to that monster. And if you XZs, etc. during a damage step, especially on this card from the grave, but banish him when it leaves the field. Then we've got generic in the form of Tornado Dragon. Got the heroic champion Magnum Excalibur. So if it battles an opponent's monster during damage count, you get to detach 2 materials from this card, double this card's attack during that damage calculation only. And then once per turn during the main phase, quick effect, target one face-up monster your opponent controls. One face-up monster you control. Equip this card to it as an equipped spell that gives it 2,000 attack. You can banish this card from the grave, shuffle 3 warriors from the grave back into the deck. So it allows you to buff one of your Battlin Boxer monsters, and then it also gives you that recyclability if you need it. Number F0 Utopic Future Zexal. You can play original number F0, and you can also play Utopic Draco Future, but that is 20 points, so that's probably something more for advanced. And then the final 3 cards are completely optional to you. So the options that you have, and keep in mind I'm about to show you 16 cards in the extra deck in total, but you can go for just a very nice monster negate in the form of Giant Hand. You can go for a cheaper point allocation field wipe in the form of the Exton Knight, or you go for the 20-point allocation in the form of the Divine Arsenal AA Zeus, which of course will be a stronger field wipe, a field wipe that can attack, and a field wipe that you can do multiple times, even though Exton is multiple times, but it doesn't require you to have less cards than your opponent. So in this scenario, I'd probably be looking at something like this as your complete 15-card extra deck, but there are times when you might want those 20 points for something else and you go for that one, or you're like, I don't want the 20 points, but I like the option of having a generic rank 4 that could do the field wipe, and of course a Zeus. So they're your options there. So that's it for the entire extra deck and the main deck. Now on to the side deck. So for the side deck, pretty basic. You've got 3 Skullmeisters. These could very easily become Heckhand Goddesses if you wanted to. Just gives you another option. Free kaijus, yes, this does get a little bit risky, but it's just for those times if you do end up facing like a Loonlight or a deck that plays a towers like a the Grand Magnus that you do need to out before you can progress any further. You will need to use a card like a kaiju. You could consider something like Ra's Fear Mode, which then wouldn't clash with your Battlin Boxers bar not letting you normal summon, but there's pros and cons with what you need to choose. Then we've got free Dark Ruler No More. It's worth the 2-point allocation just on those fields where they have multiple monsters that are going to cause you issues, and being able to use Dark Ruler on them. Yes, your Battlin Boxers can push for an OTK, but those Dark Rulers to be hit with then a Dark Hole or a Lightning Storm could be a massive deal changer. Free Twin Twisters, you could go for Cosmic Cyclones, it does require points. If you don't want to go for points and you don't want the discard, you go for Mystical Space Typhoon. But the idea behind these is it gives you that discard that sometimes you don't mind having in the graveyard, and then also sets you up with destroying 2 spells and traps rather than just the 1. And then finally, free Draco Utopic Aura. This is just another card to go first with. Yes, of course, it's not a counter trap that can be searchable, but I mean, very rarely is your opponent going to be able to beat a field that's going to have 3 counter traps set along the back rows. This one deals with monsters. You've got your Battlin Boxer one that deals with monsters, and then you've got the Flame Veil, which will deal with spells and traps. So you're completely covered. And that's it for the entire main deck, extra deck, and side deck. All that is left to show you is a very important combo to get you rocking and the rolling and battling in the ring. So I'm going to be back in a second. The 1-card combo is very simply going to be your Battlin Boxer Promoter. Now, it gets better if your opponent controls a monster, but then you obviously need to be able to deal with your opponent's effects if they have a monster. So you still just use up your normal summon to grab hold of the Battlin Boxer Promoter, use the effect to tribute it off to special summon out 2 from the deck with different names, but we want to make sure that they're both level 4, being the Uppercutter and, of course, the Glass Draw. Your Uppercut will then allow you to grab you a counter from the deck, and that's going to be your Flame Veil counter because it says counter in the name and it's a counter trap card. So that sets you up with your spell and trap negation as you'll need it when you get your Uppercutter to the grave. Then overlay both of these together, and this is going to go into your King Dempsey. King Dempsey's effect will trigger on summon to grab you a level 4 or lower fire monster or a Battlin Boxer trap spell or trap card from the deck, and you're going to want to grab your second counter in the form of the cross counter. Then as we move to the end phase, you're going to want to use the effect of your King Dempsey, detaching as effect your Battlin Boxer Glass Jaw. This will then allow you to add back your Battlin Boxer Promoter, so you've got to follow up for the next turn, making sure that we've set our counters. And then on top of that as well, the reason you want this in your graveyard is you're going to be able to revive it during your opponent's turn. So during your opponent's standby phase, you're then going to want to utilize your King Dempsey effect to detach the Uppercutter. In doing so, this is going to trigger a lot of different things. So it will allow you to trigger the Uppercutter to bring back your Battlin Boxer Glassjaw. It also sets up your Flame Veil counter because you've now got a monster in the graveyard with 200 defense. And then you've still got your Battlin Boxer cross counter that allows you to destroy a Battlin Boxer monster or a number XZs you control. So you've now got 2 ways to be able to deal with it. So if your opponent does have a kaiju, they can only get rid of 1 and your counter's still live. And then as you move these around, once you send this as card effect, you get to add back another card from the grave and you just loop the resource and go on and on and on from there. But the idea is from 1 card playing under Nibiru and not really costing you any points whatsoever, with 4 more cards remaining, you still got 2 counter trap cards that are going to cause your opponent a lot of issues, plus you've regained resource to go again for the next turn. If you're able to add spirals or imperms or even ogres or crows, anything like that to the hand as well, it's just going to get even stronger for you. So that's it for the very, very basic combo for the deck. In an ideal world, you want to save your normal summon, but being able to use this as your normal summon is still one of the best ways to do it, and that's why you also get the benefit of being able to utilize cards like 7th Tachyon, or even utilizing cards like your Duradol to help you get there as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Do like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.